So we've got sort of a long history of squatting experience in New York and elsewhere represented. And I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So again, thank you everybody for being here. My name is Sebastian Gutierrez, and actually I document testimonial videos in New York City squats with Spanish-speaking squatters mostly. And I got introduced to this movement by Ricardo León Peñavilla, el poeta, a poet and a friend and accomplice, who always told me this fun and interesting stories about his own hardship and the squatter movement, which I have big doubts of. Anyway, he passed away recently, and we will always remember him. You know, he's always around. Anyway, he introduced me to this movement, and when I moved to New York and to Brooklyn, I came, and of course, I noticed that the rent was extremely high. That's no surprise and no secret here in New York City, right? So then it's when I started really to get involved in this and started to meet other folks like Frank, right? And other guys who have been in this for many years. Have been only recently working in this, and well, I mean, I'm only a student and artist, so it's not different. My position is very different. Anyway, this group has unveiled for me many different things. One of those aspects are actually the alternative to housing, and also another important guide on this path has been Alan. Well, then I have to say that, I mean, they have kind of been protecting the independence and sovereignty of the squatter movement for more than how many years, Frank?
Well, we started squatting on the Lower East Side in 84, 85.
All right. And Alan, how long have you been in this?
A lot.
Yeah. since he was born, right?
No, really, I do some occupations in the past, but I have been researching the European movement since 2009, 2008.
Okay, great. And we also have Howard. How many years have you been involved with this?
I was involved in organizing homesteaders for 15 years.
So Howard has another kind of the same aim as I think the group, but has a different way of framing it and naming it, and I think that's also something important that you can bring up and maybe explain us in a couple of minutes. Actually, to be honest, and no offense to the panel, I thought this was going to be a younger panel, and it was actually more difficult to organize the young panel than to organize the people who
I beg your pardon.
But it started out very well. I'm very happy with the whole group, and actually, well, I don't want to keep on. I could continue, and I really want to give the words to the group. So maybe we could start with Alan, since we could have technical problems. So, Alan, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you've been up to this couple of years, or this couple of months especially. You've been really busy visiting community centers in Europe, and maybe you could bring us what have been the highlights and the good aspects that you have found over there that we might not have here, or just share what your experience is.
Can you see anything?
We can totally see you guys. We see a couple of...
Okay. Yeah, I'm here with Eric and Beatrice and Olivier at the La Generale, which is an artist center. Began its life as an occupation in another part of the city, in Belgium, in 2005. And maybe Eric could tell you a little bit about the activities at Belgium in 2005. Good question.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, there was a necessity in 2005 for a bunch of younger art students and people coming from the theater and social political scene to have a space to produce, to gather, and so it happens in one of the most popular districts in Paris, 20e arrondissement, which is Belleville, which is in like a the third Chinatown district in Paris. And then soon it was half of the street, a little street, but half of the street was an ancient school. It was a huge building, and had been for 2 years many activities, concerts, exhibitions, and again there was need, but the machine was forced as well. Because people were very fresh, and they were in the heart of the life in Paris. So it was really dynamic. And after 2 years of squatting, it turned to find another solution, because the building was belonging to the establishment, to the Ministry of Education, and so we wanted it back to make a hospital, state psychiatric hospital, which is now. So there was a kind of struggle to find another place, or rather 2 other places, because during those 2 years there were at least two mainstream. One who was much more involved in political action, social action, and sheltering association, social and activist association, and magazine, and then the other part, which was just as important as the first one, was the plastician, young people coming from recently from the School of Art in Paris, mostly. And then
let me interrupt you for a second. Maybe you can tell us a little bit of what you heard about stories in New York, and if Alan, and between you and Alan, can give us a comparison of what's the scene like in Paris compared to New York, and what is maybe the legal aspects and the political aspects that might be different from these two important cities.
Why don't I step aside from that assignment, which would take the rest of your time, and just say that La Generale is not typical, but it is really an example of a cultural center that began an occupation, continued an occupation in a government building, and then was when the building was in fact really needed for renovation, not just sitting empty, then they were relocated. Now they're have an artist center in the ceramic workshop, an old school again abandoned by empty buildings by the government, where they have a center. In most, I would say most major cities in the former West in Europe have an active occupation movement, active squatting movement that is seeking housing, but also seeking a center in the city where they can do political work, a lot of immigrants, and where they can do cultural work. And the way that the Generale group was able to hold the Belleville location was through many people coming, making many actions, just keeping it really, really busy, that the people from the community were coming in and seeing and joining in and appreciating this suddenly cultural facility, this political center, which before there was nothing. The comparison with New York is you guys are kind of in the deep freeze compared to most European cities. That's my frank opinion.
Thank you, Alan.
More further into it.
Yeah, no, you sorted out well. Actually, Alan was showing me yesterday where he is. It's a very nice space. It looks that we could send a couple of guys maybe from New York to there. And we have lots of artists that looking for residents, and maybe, I mean, they have their own garden, right? They grow their own food, etc. Kind of something that I saw yesterday. Am I right?
Well, not exactly. It's next to the nursery for Versailles, the garden for the former king.
Okay.
For the giant tourist attraction that is Versailles.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Alan. So maybe we could move in and have Marta tell us her experience and kind of holding to that idea of squatting. And is it then a direct question? Is it disorganized or decentralized? The squatter movement. Maybe you can brief us a little bit on that.
Well, I can only tell you guys from my own experience, right? I am not I was not born and raised here, so I came here when I was in my teens, late teens, and I joined one of the buildings in late 80s, and it was an opportunity that I was not even aware.
Was it Umbrella House?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it was like a salvation for me, because I was struggling so hard. And I think this is what's happening right now. Now that the economy is so terrible, people are really having a hard time to meet their needs. And so this, usually a struggle, a philosophy is kind of built on a struggle, I think. So by having the need, people are here, and I think that's great. And I think that's what we had in the 80s. Was a lot of people and a lot of buildings being exposed to the elements rather than being used for housing, and I think that's starting to happen again, and so I think it's a great opportunity for the younger generation to use that opportunity and go for it.
We were talking yesterday with Alan that there's always a time, right, and good times for this, and not so good times. And maybe you were saying that this time is probably a good time to start getting.
I think so, because there's so many people being laid off, and the economy is really crashing. It's a lot of people are struggling. There's a lot of families becoming homeless. Not just the young people that want to pursue a political situation, but there's a real need for housing, and considering that housing is a right, not a privilege or a luxury. So.
Yeah, I agree, and it's definitely not discussable. It's a right. We all should have proper housing. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about the diversity. I think that it's very important, something you mentioned, which is there's many aspects inside the squatter movement, right? And there's many people with different interests. There's some people who are more interested in the politics. There's some people who just need a home. And there's also this thing, which is the stereotypes of the squatter. And I mean, I've been researching this, and I definitely think this is wrong, because most of the squatters I've met don't fit into these categories that they put them into. So Marta, which is a mom, right? Did you actually have